We use a handheld option to portray a feeling of horror as it disorientates the audience, making them feel like they're there, so they can associate with a feeling of horror. If we were to challenge this idea, we would have used a camera on a tripod, which would have made the audience feel as if the characters were running next to them or away from. This would have meant that the audience would not have felt the horror that it could have brought using a handheld camera. We challenged the typical horror conventions of colour, as we didn't use a typical red or black theme which is used in most of horrors nowadays. We decided to go with this vintage filter. This gave a much more mystical edge to our film, as it can represent the feeling of mystery. If we were to have used the typical horror conventions of colour, we would have used a typical red and black theme to convey the same horror that most horrors do. They mostly use these colours as they associate blood with red and black with danger. We developed an idea of horror conventions as we used point of view shots to allow seeing through the character's eyes to make the audience feel as if they were there and they can feel the fear that the character is and can understand what they are going through. We use the title scenes and credits of our film from quite a few of the horror films out there today to give a spooky beginning to our film by using the effect of quite a creepy introduction, seeing the fear is then straight away forced into our film before it started. We use this idea from The Conjuring and Evil Dead to form our title scene, as we believe that their title portrayed horror very well.
In our film, we've used a range of social stereotypical groups. The first we focused on making a typical horror film stereotype was the main character, Mark Westwood. We have portrayed him as a buff male who has a fair bit of more strong personality and is fairly resilient when it comes to many difficult situations he may face. This is required for our main character because he's the person that many other characters will look to in moments of need throughout the film. And to make the main decisions to help make the lives of others a lot easier. This will be needed, as throughout the film, little do the characters know, but they're being watched and haunted by the ghost of a girl after finding the ring that used to belong to her many years ago. So we added this character here to show hope towards other characters, that there may be hope due to having such a strong-willed person on side to help. As well as this, we had the sweet innocent female character seen in most horror films, portrayed by the character Emily Thompson. We see this girl in the opening 2 minutes of the film during when the main male character finds the ring. During this, there are flashbacks to when the girl lost the ring, and we see how she reached her demise. We don't know much about the girl, as her first scenes are only very short. For example, we don't know why she's being chased, or even who by. This would become more apparent as the film moved on, but because we only did the first 2 minutes of the film, I think that just the parts we show of her creates an air of mystery about her. This leads on to the rest of the film, and where we start to see a second personality of the girl coming through. From this point onwards, we didn't actually show it due to the time constraints, but the overall storyline is that the ring she dropped just before dying meant the world to her, and she thought it'd be lost forever, so her soul can't rest until she finds it. Hence, when she saw the man that lost her ring find it in the forest, she'll do anything to get it back. It's thereon that her whole innocent side has gone, and she is portrayed as a typical young brat that can't get what she wants, but in a different way due to her supernatural presence. Finally, we have the last character that we see in our opening sequence. It is the thug. When playing this part, we were thinking of and researching the best stereotypical way to present the thug, and we did this linked in with the modern day chav. This general look is viewed upon in society as the look that rebellious, dangerous layabouts wear, and generally that cause trouble and they're unapproachable people. Using this, we created our character based on the look so the general public would see the stereotype and associate their personal opinions on the character, and hopefully they'd have a negative opinion on him. By using this look, we made it seem more realistic that this type of person would carry out such an attack compared to a general run-of-the-mill person that we see today in society as normal. Based on the horror genre of our film, we have done some research and discovered that another film company similar to ours that distributes films like ours in the horror genre is Momentum Pictures. This company has a very good reputation and is Great Britain based and has distributed many well-known films such as Insidious and The Woman in Black, which are commonly known and most people have heard of. We think that this company would be best suited to distribute our project because they are very well established and have distributed over 300 films, with a high percentage of them being in the horror genre. This means that they know the best way to distribute the product through different markets to achieve the best possible widespread audience. Another film company that could distribute our project is Hammer Film Productions. These distribute horror films, but in a different category, such as Dracula and Frankenstein. This company is suitable, but it's not particularly the horror section we're looking at. Sony Screen Gems is another film company. This isn't really suitable though, because it's the company that distributed The Vow and Spider-Man. It's not really relevant due to a different genre. However, it's the company that distributed Carrie, which was released last year, and it's a horror, so it could be a possible option. However, they don't have as wide an audience or reputation for horror films. Our genre is horror, therefore our film will not be representable to young viewers. This is because they may become very agitated and unnerved whilst watching the film, as it's quite scary and it may affect them.
This is why we have mainly aimed the age group at 16 plus, as they will not be affected by the film, as we expect them to have watched horrors before, but as when they get to this age, which is quite standard. We also believe that at this age they will not be affected, even if they were to have not watched a horror by this age, as they're growing up.
We didn't have any choice when it came to ethnicity. This is because we come from an area which is most commonly white people, so this is why all of our actors in the film are white, but we had no criteria of what ethnicity should watch the film.
We don't have a target gender in our film, which is why we use both men and women to cast. We believe that our film can watch by any gender.
When it comes to social class, our film is mainly based at middle class people, because the characters in the actual film were used to portray that standard of person, whereas when it comes to upper class people, they couldn't really relate as much to the characters, so that's why we based it at the vast majority of the population.
To attract our audience of teenagers, we have followed the conventions of a horror film and also aimed our characters, music and colour schemes to enable our audience to stay focused and enjoy the film. Our storyline attracts our audience as it follows the story of a young girl and a man in his early 20s, so the characters are relatable for our audience. This will attract their attention, as it will allow them to follow what happens to them, as they are similar ages and will find it easy to sympathise with the characters. As well as this, the characters are average people. The main male character is middle class, so is represented as being a run-of-the-mill kind of person that can easily be seen as someone that the viewers can relate themselves to and can find an essence of themselves within him. He's also shown to be a normal person that is simply walking his dog, but is caught up in something out of the ordinary.
The titles and music within our film fit with the genre and also show our film to be suited to both men and women, as they are quite dull colours, so don't show that it fits to a certain gender. Our music is simple but tension building and adds to the atmosphere of what's happening in the clip. Like with the colours, our music doesn't signify that the film is suited to a certain gender, as it simply fits within the film clip. In terms of marketing and advertising, we would aim for dull colours like in the titles, and aim for both genders with the advertising campaign. For example, we would stick to colours such as black and grey. We would have an image of the young girl lurking in the darkness of an alleyway with the ring that she loses standing out to show that it has reference to the film. An alternative to this could be an image of the character of Mark walking the dog through the forest whilst holding the ring to show continuity of the poster series. Through creating the opening to our film, we have learnt how to use a variety of editing programs, including Adobe After Effects and Adobe Premiere Pro. When using the Sony HD cameras, we found how to create close-up shots without causing images to become out of focus and blurry through trial and error. We first tried to zoom, but found that this distorted the quality of the image and didn't give the effect that we wanted. We then tried to hold in the camera closer to the object we wanted to capture. We found that this produced a better quality image and still had the effect that we wanted. Within our clip, this can be seen when we show a close-up of the dropped ring and zoom out from the close-up. This was done by bringing the camera back from the object whilst being handheld. This produced a good quality picture and also added to the horror side of the film, as it was handheld and was a little shaky.
As well as this, we had to shoot many takes of the panning on the tripod, as we found that it was often difficult to keep the shot steady and without it jumping as it got stuck on the tripod. After a few takes, we found that we had got the hand of moving the tripod steadily and produced the shot that we wanted. When using the editing software, we learnt many things and had to overcome many challenges, including how to apply certain filters and how to create the look we wanted.
When using Adobe After Effects, we learnt how to create animated logos and looks using YouTube tutorials that told us how to apply filters to create vintage looks for our flashbacks, and also how to use the effects in the After Effects software.
I'm going to work with adjustment layers, so we can just shut them off to see the differences. So right click over here and go to new adjustment layer. Press the return key on the keyboard to rename it, and I'm going to rename it to color grading, because we're going to color grade it, and there's a big difference between color correction and color grading. Color correction is getting your footage to look as realistic as it is, and then you're going to start color grading over that color corrected effect. So yeah, we won't get into this, but we'll just get started. First of all, go to Effect, Color Correction, and add a tint effect, and we're gonna get it to a amount of 50%. So we have like an older with less colors film look right over here. And then go back to Effects, Color Correction, and add some curves. What we want to do here is add some contrast first, just a little bit, not too much. This is way too much. Okay, something like that. And then we're going to the red channel, and we're gonna delete. We're gonna bump the highlights up and delete the shadows right over here, so we get something like this. And then we're going to do the same thing for the green, so I'm gonna bump these up and the shadows down. And then we're going to the blues, and there we are going to do it the other way. So we're gonna bump up the shadows and bump down the highlights. And right over here you can see already that we are getting something that we want to have. The only way to get a nice result is by messing around with these settings, so it won't be perfect from the first time. Maybe a little bit more reds over here and something like that, and just keep messing around with it. Maybe less contrast. No. Okay, there we go. And what a lot of people do using the vintage look is going to effects and go to levels and just delete some of the black areas, something like this, to get the old effect from the vintage. And as we're going to see on the original,
For example, when creating the animated logos at the start of our clip, we used a YouTube tutorial that showed us how to create effects such as a metal background and how to make the orange line look like it was carving into the material. We also learnt how to apply a vintage filter to our clips to highlight the idea of it being a flashback and to show a definite contrast. When using Premiere Pro, we had to upload all of our footage and then decided how we wanted to piece it together. Through this, we learnt how to slow footage down and speed it up, how to zoom into a certain area of a clip. For example, in ours, we chose to zoom into the main character's eye to help signify the beginning of a flashback, and how to apply effects such as crops to make our clip look seamless and professional.
When using Blogger, we found that this was an easy way to keep track of our progress when creating our product, and was also a good way of showing how we have planned and pieced our film opening together. It shows how other film products help to influence the choices we made when planning our film, as well as it helps to show why we chose the genre we did and how others may react to the horror genre through our genre research and audience surveys. Blogger then helped us to store this information and portray it through graphs to help us make our decision. To add to this, Blogger helped us to show other aspects of our product and the making that went into it. On our blogs, there are plans for our editing choices, including fonts, plans for how we will shoot the film, our storyboards and production schedules, posts relating other products like our company logo and the conventions of our genre, which helped us with planning what we needed to have in our film to show it fit our chosen genre. When starting the preliminary task, I'd never used the cameras, the editing software, and also I had no idea how to produce good shots to make the film look effective. When filming the preliminary task, I found that due to being a novice, I missed simple things, such as being on the wrong side of the 180-degree rule, and also misshooting other aspects, meaning that the preliminary editing was difficult. Not only due to having only learned the basics, but also because I had little to work with and had to refilm a shot the next day, so there was some continuity lacking within the piece.
When it came to the final task, I had learnt more on using the editing software, so I could make more difficult edits, filters and animations, and had also learnt how to create effective shots and where the best shot could be captured from. This then enabled our group to create a high-quality product that used the conventions of its genre and also used high-quality footage and animations. For example, when comparing my preliminary video and the full product I achieved at the end, the shots I used in the final product are a lot more diverse and the cuts between shots are a lot faster, showing what I've learnt from practice and also what I felt I could have improved if filming my preliminary task again. Accompanied with this, I found that the actors we used were a lot easier to work with compared to the preliminary task, as our actors in our final product, despite being family and friends, either had or did media and drama, so understood that we were on a time frame, whereas our preliminary task actors were friends that thought it was just a bit of fun and weren't as cooperative. In regards to filming with the cameras, prior to the preliminary task, I had never used them but found them easy to operate. When it came to the final task, I found I had a better understanding of how the camera worked and how I could use it to get the best shot and clarity available.
However, I found that in some of the shots I filmed in my final tasks weren't as good as they could have been, as I'm being involved with the filming process and watching the actors to make sure they were doing what we wanted. I hadn't noticed that the actors that weren't working were in the background of the shots. To fix this, I was able to rescale and reposition our footage to crop those that were stood in the background out of the shot to produce a clean flow of footage. As well as this, we found that once we had left the set and had to come watch all our footage, we found that we could have had done with filming the shots more than twice to give us a range of footage, and also that sometimes when we were just using a tripod to pan, that the shots had come out a little jumpy where the camera got a little stuck on its axis.
To progress on into A2, I would ensure that I made sure everyone on set was behind the camera, so as to ensure only the actors we wanted in shot were caught on camera. I would also ensure that I shot the scenes I wanted more than 3 or 4 times, even if I feel that I had already got the shot, as it will allow me access to a variety of footage that can then give me more to work with when I begin to edit my filming together.